This is Katey Fetch, and she's my daughter. And she has studied DCI at the Sedona College of International Management, 7, 8 levels. I'm not really sure anymore. But we wanted to do a quick review of what we've talked about in the past, um, the past classes that Alex and I have been talking about. And we talked about the 4 steps, giving what you want. And hopefully you've all tried it and gotten good results. So let me now tell you a little bit about Katey. She's used the 4 steps, and I wanted her to tell us what was your best result.
Well, one of the most remarkable ones was I used the 4 steps. I wanted to plant a specific amount of money in like a certain amount of time. So I wanted an extra $10,000 on May 1st. This was I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. So I worked on the seeds. I planted the seeds for this money, and April was coming along, and I was really worried because the money hadn't shown up yet, and I was really doing my coffee meditation. I was doing everything correctly, and then on April 31st, I got a call from my friend, and she said, "Oh, hey, we were able to collect some of these missing royalties that from a publisher. I work for a publishing company, and she said, and the author has decided to split them with you, so you're going to get an extra $10,000."
So it can happen,
Yes.
right? Okay, so now our topic today is what happens if you're using the 4 steps and you haven't gotten any results. You've used the methods that we've talked about. You understand the seed system. You understand that everything you think, do, and say is planting a seed, but you've specifically made a 4-step plan to get something you want. Maybe it's a partner, maybe it's an expansion in your business. What happens if you've never gotten any results? Would you just give up, just quit, go to conventional methods, take more jobs? What would you do now, Katey?
Well, now knowing what I know, I wouldn't quit, even though sometimes it's tempting when you don't get your result. That's why we actually recommend you start with money, because it's really easy to get a result with money using the 4 steps, and then you can prove to yourself that this system works. So then you can move on to something else. The system works, but maybe you haven't gotten the result with your 4 steps. So what would you do? I wouldn't give up.
No, I wouldn't give up. We do start with money because it's not only easy to get results, it's easy to measure your results. You can measure your bank account every month and see that it's growing. But it's different if you're working on a relationship or on your own happiness. I can't measure my happiness and say, hey, don't I look happier than I did yesterday? Don't I look happier than last month? Well, tell me. That's difficult to measure. But what I really want to get to today is to talk about what do we do? What can we do if we're not getting the results? Maybe we start another 4-step plan. Would that be a good thing? Maybe we get a different 4-step partner.
Maybe.
Okay, that would be sort of a conventional method. So we know it's not the person we're working with because we understand seeds. So how can we use the same seed system to get the results we want? And so what we want to talk about today is discovering what obstacles we have to getting the results we want. I've been practicing the 4 steps and using them. I've used them successfully in my business. It's tripled in the last 3 years, and that's during COVID. But I have another 4-step plan. I'm actually trying to sell some property, and I have a timeline to sell it. So I have a 180-day timeline to sell it, but I want to sell it much faster than that. And I'm using my 4 steps. I'm thinking about it all the time. What should I do?
Well, I think one thing quickly to try is make sure you're doing all of the 4 steps. Just real quick. And I know the one we all tend to skip is coffee meditation. We tend to skip it and then we don't get a result, or maybe we get a half-hearted result. But if we are doing coffee meditation, we're doing all the 4 steps correctly and not getting a result, there's a special tool you can use called the 4 powers.
Yeah, so that's what we want to talk about today, the 4 powers. And it uses the same system that we've been learning all along. We examine what's going on in our life. So for me, I'm not getting the results I want. There's an obstacle to my selling this piece of property. This is a booming market. It's a seller's market. Sellers can set the price, and oftentimes buyers will come in and they'll bid up the price so they even pay you more than your asking price. But my property hasn't sold. So I have to investigate what seeds I planted in the past that are creating obstacles that I'm experiencing right now that are blocking the sale of my property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the idea of the airplane taking off, you might be planting really good seeds, but like an airplane in line to take off at an airport, there's this seed in front, this seed in back, this seed, or this airplane, this airplane, this airplane. The airplane that's in front is going to need to take off first, so it's blocking your good seeds from taking off. So sometimes you got to clear away this blocker using the four powers.
So what are those four powers? What would be the first of the four powers?
So the first of the four powers is remembering the pen. This is a pencil, but remembering the pen thing that we've talked about or they've talked about probably almost every talk.
Almost every talk. We don't talk about it every talk. But the pen. And what that means is if I remember the pen, what it is, it's a reminder that those obstacles aren't out there coming at me. Those are things that I planted sometime in the past. I created the very obstacles that I'm experiencing that keep me from selling this property. So that's the first thing I want to remember. I recognize I have obstacles. I'm not really sure what they are, but whatever they are, I want to stop them. So the second step is what?
What something we call intelligent regret. It's like, oh shoot, I did this thing that's causing me problems. So, for selling your property, maybe you in the past slightly blocked somebody else from getting something they wanted.
Yeah, or maybe I blocked someone else from getting the income they wanted, or discouraged them from taking a good job, because I didn't want them to move away. Somehow I blocked someone from getting the income that they wanted, or that's sort of related because this is income related. So it relates to the four steps, like makes like. So I want to be a detective and start examining what I might have done that is creating this blocker that is preventing me from having this sales and not having more income. So what other small things might that be? It could be small things because if you remember, we've also talked about, how seeds grow. So I might have done something very, very small, but it's had lots and lots of time to grow. So now it's become a big, big blocker.
Yeah, and I want to point out that it's not guilt, or the definition of we think of guilt like, oh, if I just beat myself up enough, like somehow it'll make it better. It's intelligent regret, meaning you're not willing to repeat the behavior. So in my case, I'm kind of working on anxiety, and I have blockers to that obstacle being removed. And so I have to think about, how have I caused other people anxiety in small ways? So maybe it's just telling them something bad I heard on the news. So, I'm like, ooh, okay, I feel regretful that I did that because I caused them anxiety, and I'm going to not repeat that behavior.
Right. So the first two things in the four powers are to remember the pen, that the problem is coming from me. I planted this obstacle. The second one is to have intelligent regret. I'm really sorry that I did it. I'm not sure in this case exactly what I did, but I have regret that I did it because I'm experiencing the result. So the next step, what's the logical next step? Think about it. I'm sure somebody maybe out there in the chat could put it in there. Well, it's to stop doing the same action. We don't want to keep replanting the same action
for a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, for a reasonable amount of time. But we want to be aware that everything we think, do, and say all day long is creating a seed that's either going to help me sell my property or block me from selling my property. So the more that we can keep the pen or where things come from in mind, the more likely we'll be able to not repeat the bad action that creates the obstacles in our life. And like Katey said, for a limited amount of time, but until we get stronger and stronger in our practice. And to give an example for a limited amount of time.
Well, I know I'm not always going to be able to keep my mouth shut and not tell people horrible things I heard on the news. So I'm going to say, okay, so for the next day, day or maybe even 10 minutes. I'm not going to tell anybody anything horrible that I heard on the news that would cause them anxiety. And I'm going to stop doing it for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm going to go away by myself so I'm not around anyone.
Yeah. Go on a walk. Go on a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
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 So then that gives me a plan. I can stop. You know what? I can work hard. I can stop getting in the way of people, find their financial independence. I can, really up my coffee meditation and all the people I've helped in business. So those are two great methods that I could do that are going to help me sell that property. And I got to thinking, since seeds grow, every time I refer someone from one of my stores to another person's store, I'm actually planting the seed for someone else to make a sale of an item that I don't have. So if I am aware of that, I can do a small a mini coffee meditation, even on the small acts of helping someone. And when those seeds grow, I'm going to get results. So let's get back though to the 4 powers. So what's the 4th power?
It's sort of a balancing act, a makeup activity. So say, okay, instead of telling somebody something bad I heard, I'm going to tell them something good I heard, something that'll make them feel inspired or at peace or safe.
Yeah, that's great, Katey.
So, yeah, like I would say so let's just say I'm working on anxiety. I would first off think about the pen, remember that I planted this anxiety that I'm experiencing. Then I would have intelligent regret, like, shoot, dang it, I did it again. So, and then the third one would be I'm going to stop for 10 minutes. I'm not going to tell my mom anything bad I heard on the news or anything that would cause her anxiety. And instead, for the 4th power, I'm going to tell her something cool I heard that'll make her feel at peace and more at ease in her mind.
So that's awesome. So your 4 powers, it sort of sounds like a 4-step plan too, don't you think?
It does, actually.
Do you see how they relate? We decide, we've got this obstacle, we want to remove it. And then we're going to take action to do that. So for myself, I might not be able to help someone in a big way in their business. I might not be able to help someone sell their house unless I know somebody who's buying a house and I can connect them. But there's a lot of small things that I can do to help me get the results I want by helping other people sell the things they want. And I'll give you a real small example. On a Sunday, there was a yard sale sign out in front of my store, and the sign had blown over. And this family, they were having an estate sale. They had a lot of stuff they wanted to get rid of, and nobody was going to see a sign laying on the ground. So I went up and I propped it up in a really visible spot so that, people getting off the train, people driving down the street would be able to sell that sign. And I did it with the awareness that I was helping them get recognition so they could sell more items at their yard sale. So that's a small act, but believe it or not, just doing something small like that, it's going to grow if I water it. And just by sharing that with you guys, I'm watering it and I'm feeling really happy about that. So have you done anything like that to help you with your
I kind of just made this 4 powers up on the spot. So I'll have to think about that for a minute.
Yeah, I guess I caught her off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just thought it was really important. We always talk about seeds and how, we plant good seeds to get what we want by helping someone else get what they want. And frequently we don't think that the bad stuff's coming from us too. So if you're an intelligent person and you've planted good seeds and you've gotten good results, then if you really think about it, someplace, sometime, you've made mistakes too. And this is an opportunity for us to clean up those mistakes using this practice called the 4 powers.
I definitely keep it in the positive. We all make mistakes all the time. We're not bad people. We're all trying to be our best selves in the end. So definitely don't beat yourself up over, planting a bad seed. Just have intelligent regret, like, I'm going to try to not do it again in the future.
Yeah.
Kind of like an apology. It means more if you're willing to actually work on the behavior.
Yeah, it's a great thing to know and to apply.
You're apologizing to yourself.
And now here's another thing. So what happens to those seeds? Because we have gone over in our first level, in our Seeds of True Success level 1. It's a free course. You might, if you haven't seen it, it's free. Please watch it. We go into depth of what happens to seeds anyway. We know that when we plant a seed, we're going to get a like result. We know that the result we get is going to be bigger than the thing we planted. We also know that if we don't do anything, we're not going to get a result. And that if we do something, we must get a result. So what that implies is, with the 4 powers, we don't actually get rid of the seed, but what we do is we make it ripen much too quickly. It ripens and it shrivels up.
So you don't get the full result.
Right. So maybe my property will sell, but maybe I'll lose, I won't get the full asking price.
Or you will, but maybe like in the meantime, you'll have little mini problems come up. So I was doing something with my daughter the other day, and we were doing like the 4 powers for protection to make sure that we're both safe, because we live in the mountains and go hiking and stuff. So we did a little 4 powers practice for protection. And then it was so strange because afterwards we did this, all of a sudden Ava kept hurting herself. She got like all these had mini disasters, mini accidents. She actually got a big bruise on her nose, but compared to maybe what they would have been, they were very minor. So if you're working, you might have a little mini disaster, and that means the seed is cleared up. It's done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I've had a great year. I've had some mini disasters, and I have, some bigger disasters, but on the scale of things, these disasters, if I realize that what they are is sort of a cleansing or a removal of the seed, something that might have actually killed me or, really destroyed me, someone in my family seriously injured or something. I actually had one of my businesses destroyed by fire. And I would, now it's like, I kind of laugh about it. I mean, it's destroyed by fire. It's like, it's rubble, but it's like, wow, I got that seed out of the way.
Yeah, maybe it was going to be a lot worse, but it was kind of a big disaster, but maybe it would have been worse had you not done the 4 powers.
Yeah, or understood that, that was a ripening of a seed that could have been much, much worse. The death of someone, I can't replace. A building, I can rebuild. But it's interesting. It's really cool that we can start having our problems actually become masterpieces, like one of the DCI programs.
Yeah, so be happy with every headache you get after doing the 4 powers. It means it worked.
Yeah.
Or watch for the mini disasters, and you can be excited that they're happening because it means the blocker, the airplane that's holding up your good seeds from taking off, is going away.
Yeah. So let's quickly tell you again what the 4 powers are. The first of them is remembering where things come from. They come from something that we did in the past, and we planted a seed. What's the second one?
Intelligent regret.
Yeah. And what is intelligent regret?
Deciding that you don't want to do that behavior in the future, and you regret that you did it in the first place, and are going to try and apologize to yourself for doing it. And then the third one, the most powerful one, is stopping doing the thing that causes you the obstacle or the pain that you're suffering. Stop that action for a reasonable
amount of time. And then as your practice goes, just stop it. And the fourth one?
A makeup activity, a balancing act.
Yeah, like a balancing act. And then, it's just such a beautiful practice. So be happy when you get that headache later. It's better than, breaking your ankle.
Yeah, or dying.
Yeah. And, we can use this along with our 4 steps. We can use our 4 powers also to help us along finding our talent, our passion, and our true purpose. And that course is now available on Seeds of True Success. So I hope you'll sign up for it. And we really look forward to talking to you and look forward to hearing from you and your questions. So thanks again for tuning in today. Katey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks, I think. I'm going on a backpacking trip. So in our beautiful mountains here in the southern San Juan Mountains. So I have a 5-night, 6-day backpacking trip planned. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.